Hi, everyone. Welcome to Built by Endurance, where we interview endurance athletes who are crushing it in business. Today, we have JG from Paris, but now he lives in Boston. JG, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me on. What a pleasure to be here. Super humbled to be interviewed by you today. So yeah, cheers.
Awesome, man. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we were talking offline about some of the crazy races that you've done. Tell us a little bit about those and how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so I've been doing triathlon for about 3 years. I think my first ever try, which was the Boston try, I did after graduating grad school, and off of like a Facebook Marketplace special, $1,000 bike, whatever, grabbed the first one I could find. I did that summer of 2023, and then you know, dabbled into half Ironmans. Obviously, the first ones didn't really go as planned, and then
Mhm.
we moved into like I've been doing a couple. I did a couple Ironmans. I did California 2 years ago. That got me qualified for Nice last year. So I did Worlds in Nice. Also, a couple halves. Also, last summer I qualified for Nice again, but this time for the half Ironman. So that's what I'll be doing in the fall, going for that. And then I also do a bit of off road triathlon, like Xterra, which is same as like sort of a 70.3, but you're on a mountain bike and then you're running the mountains. Yeah, so plenty of try stuff.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on making it to Worlds. That's super impressive. But I want to hear more about this Xterra. I haven't really heard of it before. How did you find out about this, and where do they have these races? How do you get from, I assume, it's lake swim to then you're biking in the mountains and trail running? Kind of just tell me how it
Yeah.
works.
Xterra is fun. It's kind of a niche triathlon, like sub part of it. Um, my coach actually is a elite Xterra athlete. My coach and his girlfriend, they're both elite Xterra athletes. And Xterra is like a Olympic format, so it's an Olympic distance try,
Okay.
but completely off road. So you're doing a lake or I guess the only part you really share with a normal like a traditional try is like the swim, right?
Hmm.
But then essentially you're doing around 20 or so miles on a mountain bike, and the courses have like obviously crazy elevation, crazy terrain. You're in rock gardens and single track. You're going down like hills and mountains, like bombing down on a mountain bike. So yeah, it's quite gnarly, quite adventurous. And then you're doing your run. It's going to be a 10K, like around 6 miles, 10K, that sort of distance. And then again, like rooty terrain, muddy terrain. I think the last race I did, so I raced in New Jersey this past weekend, and my feet were wet, like from the start of the bike till like the end of the run. That was like 3 hours of wet, muddy feet. Yeah. So
That's
um,
crazy.
they hold a bunch. I think there are like maybe 20 or 20, 30. They have, yeah, 20, 30 races a year. It's quite big, but obviously a little niche.
And had you done mountain biking and trail running before this, or was you just go right from the road to trail running and mountain biking?
Last time I mountain biked was with my dad when I was like 8 or 9.
Okay.
So brought back some memories. I wasn't the best on the course. A little few tumbles here and there. Pick the bike,
That's
get back on.
That's so impressive to just because I know that, mountain biking is crazy just by itself, but then to throw in a race factor where you're competing against other people, it just it's insane. That blows my mind.
Yeah, it's there's definitely like I feel there's definitely a skill factor that
Yeah.
it's not only about the watts. So you'll hear a lot about those watts and like those that structured training um for like Ironman, right? They're like, oh, you're at what this is your FTP whatever, and then this is your first lactate threshold, and that's what you're gonna hold like for an Ironman or for a
Hmm.
70.3. Mountain biking is a little different. It doesn't really matter what your FTP is. If you can't get over the rocks, you're walking over those rocks, right? It doesn't matter if you have a 400 FTP on a mountain bike. Like, sure, it'll help you for like a section of the climb, and then first like rooty trail, like kind of segment you're gonna hit, the skill factor really is at play here. So yeah, it was a little serving a humble pie, but it's
That's
all
cool,
fun.
man. Well, it sounds like a really interesting sport. It's something I might have to check out.
Oh, you should definitely try it. You should definitely try it. It's very fun, and it's like I think it's a little more relaxed. Like the people are all more relaxed than at an Ironman start or finish line, right? Which obviously is like a very intense exercise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I know that you have a background in competitive rugby. How did you get from rugby to endurance sports and off-road racing?
Yeah. So a little backstory. I started rugby when I was 5. There's a local rugby club where we're at, and I played rugby until I was 21 or 22, something like that. 22, I think. 22, yeah. And well, growing up, I was on a national junior squad development. I played for my school. I played club. I did tours. I played in college. I played D1. And rugby was my entire life. Like it was pretty much the only sport I did. I played every day. And in 2022, yeah, in 2022, I hurt my back at nationals at Sevens Nationals in the U.S. And I herniated a disc on I think it's like L4 around there, L4 or L5. I can't remember which one. And it gave me like severe sciatica, and I still have sciatica to this day, so I have to kind of manage that. But yeah, essentially, and I was like, oh, I get hurt all the time. I was telling the PT and the doctor or whatever. I was like, oh, so when can I get back on the pitch? And I'm like, nah, you're cooked. You're done. There's no more rugby for you. Like this is career ending. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, you can't walk, dude. You're not getting back on a rugby pitch anytime soon. And so, yeah, that summer was really hard. I can actually sit down. Like getting in a car was extremely painful. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to run to manage that like inflammation and that pain. And so I stopped rugby, and it was the first time I stopped the thing that I did every day for the last 18 or so years. And so it was a little hard, and I think I was a little lost at the time. A lot of partying, a lot of drinking. Obviously, like you're in college, you're grad school, whatever. You're having a lot of fun, and yeah, I put on a lot of weight. And I was living with a bunch of guys, and it was a great time. I mean, these were some of the funnest nights I've had in my life. But yeah, it was definitely out of shape, and I don't know why we decided to run a marathon. Like that was the thing. Like we were like, oh, we need to prove to ourselves that we're not just a bunch of losers, and we need to do a marathon. And we ran the Providence Marathon right around like 2 weeks before graduating grad school. And my training, I went back and looked actually before this. I went back and looked at my training. I was averaging maybe 2.5 runs a week for a total of like 15 to 20 miles. And I was we're like kind of cocky and complacent coming into this marathon. I was like, oh, I've been an athlete my entire life. Like, I've done all the strength training, and everybody's running. Like you're in Boston, you look at the Charles River, you used to like, oh, everyone can run. Like marathons, piss easy, super easy. I did it in 4 hours and 40 minutes. I ran the first half in like hour 50, something like that. Then I walked for 3 hours and cried and called my mom on the phone and was like, this is so hard. And yeah, and that's how I did a marathon. It's actually the only marathon I've ever done in my life, like open marathon. And I did that, and I was like, geez, like you're a loser, like you suck. And that's when I got a like Instagram ad for the Boston Tri, and I was like, all right, buddy, time to redeem yourself.
Yeah, redemption.
And I really liked, and I did the Boston Tri, and I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I love the people there. I love the community. Everyone was so welcoming, and it didn't feel definitely as scary as a marathon. And so I stuck with triathlon ever since.
Well, you got served another slice of humble pie there.
Life lessons, life lessons.
Yeah, life lessons. Well, did the injury change the way that you train, or think about your body as a whole?
Yeah. I've had I've had like better like good stints and bad stints. So obviously like drinking a lot and going to the bar the next morning because you sleep badly, and the next morning you wake up and your back's in pain, like in agony. Like I'm hobbling out of bed. It takes me ages to wake up and sort of loosen up. And the message isn't, stop drinking, stop having fun, train 50 hours a week. Like that's not the message, but like it's being more aware of my body as a whole.
Yeah.
Um, I don't do anything like special. I do like daily mobility, but I feel like everybody should do it. That's
Hmm.
not because I'm injured in any way. And again, I don't do anything crazy in that mobility routine. It's just like a couple stretches, a couple push-ups. I do maybe more back extensions than the average person to try to strengthen that back, but like that's about it. I mean, there's no real secret. I really like obviously you learn to live with that pain and that inflammation, and then you adjust your lifestyle. So
Yeah. But I mean,
I'm very
uh,
particular about my chairs. That's about
even the
it.
mobility is important because when I was younger, I just cold, go for runs, go for bikes, work, lift. I would do nothing. I would just go straight into the exercise. Now, if I do that, I'm not feeling good until I'm at least a half an hour into the workout. So I feel like as you get older, whether you have injuries or not, you got to have some type of warm up, some type of mobility work before you start your day or your exercise. It's for me, it's kind of been a game changer. Is incorporating that instead of just cold turkey right into the exercise.
Yeah, of course. It's funny after Nice in September, at the time it was like a pretty big block for me, and uh, coming into the fall when it was a little colder, it was my off season, wasn't doing as much, got a little sick, and I think it's just because I beat up my body so much over the summer that I couldn't bend forward over Christmas break. I was at my parents' place and I couldn't walk. Like I was doing this like weird hobble with my leg. Yeah, I was just like pulling my leg from the side and then stepping with the right, and then because the left one's the one with sciatica, and I was just kind of like dragging the left one. It was really weird. Um, and I couldn't bend forward. Like it was, I went to the PT and they're like, oh, like do a bend, and I'm like, that's it. Like straight, standing straight was as forward as I could get, and that was a real wake up call of you like not like the daily mobility stuff is, you know, it it changes your life I think like in the long term, and it's not a big price to pay. It's like 15, 10, 20 minutes, whatever, in the morning. And it's okay. Now I can bend forward again.
Glad to hear that. Well, how did you go from crying on your first marathon and running a 440 to then in your first full Ironman qualifying for Worlds? Was it a mindset switch or did the training just you dialed it in?
Um, I think I have a pretty obsessive personality to start with.
Yeah, most people do who do
Obviously, yeah,
Ironmans.
you're gonna get a lot of type A people. I don't know if I'm like super type A, but when I start something, I really like to finish it. I'm kind of like the dog that won't let go of whatever bone he's chewing on. Um, and I guess it was Ironman was never the goal, and it still never is the goal. Like it's not a oh, I didn't I wasn't even when I did my first triathlon. I think it was Boston Tri. I signed up for the New York Tri. I think like literally day of, and that tri was like a month after. Um, People I know, and I met a bunch of people, and they're talking about half Ironmans. Like, in my mind, a half Ironman was unattainable. Like people who did that were insane. These like gifted athletes, crazy VO2 maxes, professional sexes. Like I was like, this is insane. Like I'm never gonna get there. And I was like, oh, maybe if I train really hard every day in like 1 year, I'll do a half Ironman. Turns out I did one like 2 months after. Uh, and, I guess it's kind of like the fuck around, find out mentality of, was I ever ready for my first, I don't know. Am I still like ready for whatever next race I'm doing? Maybe, maybe not. But I try to approach it like bit by bit and be like, all right, what's my next race? I'll work towards that. What's my next race? You know. And I think it's only probably this past winter season that I'm like, all right, with my coach, we worked together really closely to build like a block for an entire year and like choose the races accordingly so that I'm hitting the right blocks at the right time and I'm doing the right races at the right time, and we're looking at like like a training intensity curve over the year or whatever. But like that's like recent. I think that's at this point is like, okay, I want to be better. How do I get better? But
Yeah.
for a very long time, it was just kind of having fun, I guess.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, I hope the intensity training curve formula works out for you.
I mean, it's everyone who's a bit serious, I think, is on a similar protocol. Like
Yeah, at
training
some point
peaks
you got
has
to get
its own
serious
thing. Yeah.
if you want to qualify, or you have like specific goals. You have to zero in the training. You can't just be like, "Oh, I'm going to run 4 times a week." No, you have to schedule in when are you doing, high threshold workouts, when are you doing your long runs, when are you doing hard bikes, when you're doing long bikes. You got to have a plan. You can't just do it when you feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, I work very closely with my coach. He's also a friend, so that kind of works out. But yeah, every week's kind of I aim for around 18 to 20 hours of training, and it's like well structured, and there's not much leeway on what you're doing. Right? It's like at least 2 workouts a day, sometimes three, and it is a big commitment, but I guess that's my definition of fun right now, so I'm super happy to be doing it. So I guess,
Awesome,
yeah, it's
man.
cool.
I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to hear what you're doing at Vertex Pharmaceuticals. Tell me about it.
Yeah, my other cat, my real job, the
Yeah.
one that actually yeah, gets me paid. I'm a senior data scientist at Vertex, and Vertex, for people who don't know about it, and I hope you don't know about it, makes therapies and drugs for people with like horrible genetic or chronic illnesses. So their big drug right now is for cystic fibrosis, and they're kind of the market leader for cystic fibrosis. And then we've got like a cell and gene therapy pipeline for um, beta thalassemia and sickle cell disease. There's also some like stuff in the pipeline, not commercial yet, for kidney disease and type 1 diabetes. And so, yeah, it tackles like these horrible kind of genetic diseases. And as a data scientist, I'm in the data strategy and solutions team. And I work mostly on our Casgevy pipeline, which is the cell and gene therapy one. And I do a lot of like modeling of manufacturing events. And so it's like creating digital twins, enabling predictive manufacturing. So right now, manufacturing in pharma is very reactive. And it's like you have events and you observe these events, and then you have to take a decision, what is our next step? And you're not scheduling the next step until the previous one is finished. And it's how can I put this? You don't have any foresight or forecasting ability. You can't say, hey, this is my outcome is going to be like in 6 months. You can't, because these pipelines are so complex. They involve like tens of different companies, right? You're sending your samples to be QC tested across the world. Those are also like the QC tester will have like stuff that's contracted to other QC testers, blah 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 blah. So it's like a very complex pipeline, and trying to model it and enable like, using machine learning, AI, stats, sometimes some basic rule-based methods, and mathematics, whatever, to try and like predict. All right, when's our next event going to happen? When's the next event after that going to happen? What does a patient timeline look like? So that's what I do. Yeah.
That's interesting. How did you get into that? Was this what you went to school for? Data science?
I got my bachelor's in chemical and physical engineering, and I got a master's in applied physics. That was around COVID. I got a master's in applied physics. Um, at the time, I was really into medical imaging and computer vision, and that was all the craze back in like 2018, 2019. And that's when I really got into like the AI stuff, and it was sort of how could you design algorithms, like machine learning algorithms, to detect stuff on medical images, right? That's when all the like breast cancer, like AI predicting breast cancer before doctors, kind of papers came out. Um, and then I decided to go to grad school for that, like go again, do another master's. I was like, I'm going to pivot. I'm not going to do a PhD in physics. I'm going to do a master's in data science and AI to try to learn how to code, learn what machine learning is. Um, and during that time, I got an internship at Moderna, right here in Boston, and that's when I got exposed to. I was a data scientist in CMC, chemistry, manufacturing, and control, and I got exposed to, I guess, the pharma manufacturing world, like without really knowing anything about it. And yeah, it's like kind of an untapped area that I think has a lot of potential for AI in the future. And I was just really interested by it, and then joined Vertex June of last year. And yeah, that again, like, didn't really plan this ahead, kind of just happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like a super interesting space. I know there's a lot of noise in AI kind of like changing the world, taking over. From your opinion, what's something that's, overhyped in the AI use in the biotech industry, and what's something that's kind of underhyped?
Overhyped, I think, trying to put AI as automation everywhere. Um, right. So, I mean, this is in biotech. I think biotech is pretty good at kind of um, shielding out some of the noise, right? Because you got a lot of like everyone has a PhD essentially, so I think it's less prone to some of the AI noise than other industries. Um, but there is a tendency to want to think like, okay, we're gonna use AI to do everything, to automate everything.
Mm.
And when you price it to automate stuff, you have to make sort of a custom, like if you have a complex pipeline, you need a custom solution. You need people to, one, understand the business process, right? You realize like very few people actually know a full entire business process from end to end. And so you have to understand that, translate it into something like you can engineer with either agents or machine learning or data, or you have labeled, like you need some sort of data or data model foundation. It's not always the case. And then you need software engineers, data scientists, you need people to actually make it. And then you need people to evaluate it. Does it actually make sense? And then when you put that entire life cycle and that, cost breakdown of creating such a thing, and yeah, you realize humans are pretty cheap. Like, sometimes, hiring one extra person at, whatever the salary rate is for that person, in the long term, it's not always more expensive than having an AI solution.
That makes sense. I feel like a lot of people are kind of, hearing these big headlines of AI is going to cut everybody's jobs, are going to take away white collar work. And I just think it's really blown out of proportion, mostly probably by the people who are trying to perpetuate their AI usage. And yeah, it just seems like you said, you can't automate certain workflows that are extremely niche. You can't just have the AI go in and automate everything. So I do kind of agree with you that segment is kind of overhyped a little bit.
Yeah, one of the OGs of the AI, field, Andrew Ng, he had a very famous Coursera course. Well, he worked with Coursera. He had one of these courses on machine learning. I think that most data scientists probably took at some point. And he always said it's never really about AI, right, in itself. It's about AI plus X. It's about how you apply AI in your field, whether that be marketing, sports, um, you know, biotechnologies, finance, and it's how it. For me, it's like the next revolution, the next tech revolution, right? First you had like the typewriter, then you had the calculator, then you had the first computer, and then you had within computers you had apps, right? And now you have AI. Apps, some apps replace jobs, not all apps replaced all jobs, and I think yeah, it's a shift. It's a natural shift. Some, AI is going to replace some jobs. Like I think, like text heavy research jobs like a paralegal might be at risk, or a low level analyst at mining data in a bunch of documents. If you're doing that, then yeah, you're at risk because AI can process stuff like 100 billion times faster than you.
Hmm.
um, but it also enables a bunch of jobs, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like the jobs that will be in the workforce in 10 years don't exist today. So you have to see it also as like there's opportunities there, right? It's like everything. You don't want to be the Kodak or the Nokia of AI.
Yeah, that's some really good insight. I appreciate the thoughts. So what's next for you when you look maybe a few years down the road? What do you see yourself doing?
I try not to have these like vast grand goals.
Hmm.
I try to keep stuff pretty realistic and not think too far ahead, right? Because if buts and maybes, like I can be president next in 10 years, whatever. Like sure, like dream big, right? Go for it. Um, so I don't really know. Like one, I feel like I'm still in a learning phase in my career,
Hmm.
right? I want to see how there's stuff I want to do at Vertex. I think and from a data AI perspective, I think I have a slight edge in my career with where I've placed myself, and I'd like to see how that kind of unfolds. Um, and yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be in a situation where I can work hard and train hard, right? And I'm kind of trying to just nurture that right now, and see you know, where that kind of takes me. Like, would I have cool opportunities to work at AI, like frontier AI research in San Francisco? Yeah, like I've gotten calls for that, but that also means like probably leaving some of the try stuff on the side for a while. And right now, that's not a bet I want to make. Right, I want to keep pursuing triathlon. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep training with all the people I train with, keep training with my team. It's amazing, and also be able to work and contribute to such a great cause that we do at Vertex, right? And so that balance right now is really cool. And I just want to kind of explore that, nurture that.
Yeah, it's always a balance. You can't, like you said, you're training 18, 20 plus hours a week. It's a part-time job at that point. So, yeah, like you said, it's always a balance of trying to focus on doing the best you can in your career and also improving yourself
Yeah,
physically.
yeah,
Well,
of
awesome,
course.
man. It was really a pleasure having you on the show. Congrats on all the success you've had making it to Worlds, and good luck in Xterra in the Worlds in Nice. That's incredible, man.
Yeah, thanks so much. Super, yeah, again, super happy to be on this. Like, probably the first time someone's called me up to be on a podcast. So really, really appreciate it. I hope I didn't embarrass myself. And yeah, I'm excited to hear what, what this podcast becomes and the other people that you invite on it. It's a great initiative.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, if people want to learn more about you or connect with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Either Instagram at JG Brasier. You can probably link that somewhere. And if you want to connect professionally, LinkedIn is also a great way to reach out.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks, man. All right, everybody, take care. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next episode of Built by Endurance. And as always, if you want to listen to more interviews with endurance athletes crushing it in business, make sure you're subscribed.